The misunderstood sun in Virgo. Sorry about the noise. My kettle is boiling right now, some water, so you might hear some strange sounds. So here are a couple of archetypes that is linked to Virgo and could be misunderstood for a person who has their sun in Virgo. So these archetypes are that sun in Virgos must be hygienic, super clean, super organized, uptight, and picky. I'm just gonna tell you right off right now that I used to have a colleague who was a Virgo sun. He would sit next to me in the office and he was not hygienic. He was a great colleague though. He was wonderful. Oh, keeping in mind that Virgo is right in between the signs of Leo, Cancer, Libra, and Scorpio. So you could possibly, if you have a Virgo sun, you could possibly have your Venus or your Mercury in signs like Leo or Libra, which is gonna not make one very necessarily picky or uptight. The sun is, of course, your identity and how you go about being in this world. The sun is actually not considered to be very well defined in earth signs like Virgo. So the identity of this person is going to not be so well defined. So what can happen is that you can link your identity to other things. Most likely a sun in a Virgo person is going to link their identity to how much they are able to be of service to other people. That's one thing. So if they can offer practical advice, if they can offer some kind of physical service, like helping you organize your schedule for work, or fixing your phone, then that's what they link their identity to. Because there are so much of linking it to service, they tend to feel that they will be there for somebody until the end, even though that person might not necessarily be very close to them. Whoever that they come across and kind of associate with, they tend to want to be there for that person. You might also link your identity to the ability of a categorization. So it's kind of difficult to explain, but because Virgo is ruled by the sign of Mercury, which is all about the intellect, but it's more of intellect in terms of sorting things through, not about gathering information, but sorting information, analyzing information. So they could link their identity to their ability to be able to categorize things. You know, they can gain a sense of self-confidence when they're able to put things into boxes, if that makes any sense. For example, they might, let's say, have a lot of things going on in their life, and they might need to put these things into boxes, like, oh, this task that I need to do is linked to my love life. This task that I need to do is linked to my career. This task is linked to my health. This task is linked to my friends. They can tend to put these things into categories, and that helps them to gain their sense of confidence. You know, the sun is also about like how you're being in the world and being seen in the world and being shining in the world. So they really do shine in their ability to apply knowledge into everyday life. For example, maybe they've been studying or been researching about, let's say, health. It's a very Virgo theme. How to be healthy, for example. You know, they might go about they might read something about antioxidants food. And I'm sorry, I have my 4th house in Virgo, and I can kind of understand what Virgos do. So yeah, they might read up about antioxidant food and try to eat or incorporate antioxidant foods into their meals. Or they may read up about the kinds of food that gives calcium, or they might kind of you know, research about the kinds of dietary needs that a person needs in a day, and then categorize those needs, you know, what kind of food gives calcium, what kind of food gives antioxidants, what kind of food is going to give iron, fiber, whatever, and then apply it to their everyday life and actually do it. But there's also a bit of danger in this, if you can see where I'm coming from, where the danger is in of kind of like, you know, the world doesn't operate that way. The world doesn't operate according to your ability to plan and your ability to categorize things. Sometimes there's just some things happen in the world that there's just no way of categorizing, no way of planning, no way of organizing, and the Sun in a Virgo person can feel completely lost. They can feel it personally, and people tend to give Virgo the archetype of being very organized, but I feel that this is more of being, the Sun in a Virgo is more of being organized in a disorganized way. Okay, so they don't, I mean, some of them might be very organized, might be very clean, but some of them might be disorganized, but know exactly how things work in the disorganized way. You know, like their room might be completely disorganized, but they might know exactly where their nail cutter is placed. And maybe they've placed their nail cutter underneath underneath their pile of scarves, and they always keep it under their pile of scarves because they remember it as being there. So they're kind of in that way organized in a disorganized way. Now I'd like to show you a tarot card that I've picked out for the Sun in Virgo. This is based on my own interpretation. This is not based on a textbook or anything. This is just me looking through the cards and then feeling like this is what corresponds to the sun sign. Oh. The Hanged Man. So the reason why I've chosen this card for the Sun in Virgo is actually the Hanged Man is actually one of my favorite cards because it's so it just changes your perspective on everything. So this man, he's hanging upside down. He's tied by a snake, and his face, if you just see it, is very calm and serene. So he's actually hanging upside down, and there's murky water underneath, meaning that if he falls into the water, he would obviously be at his death. But he's actually hanging there by choice. So the reason why he's hanging upside down is when you're hanging upside down like this, it has a theme of surrendering, okay? And I feel that what the Sun in Virgo person kind of learns to do throughout their life is to plan, so to be there, to plan to surrender, because they're so good at organizing and categorizing and gaining all this knowledge that ultimately they can really surrender in a very wise way, if you know what I mean. And actually this card is associated with the sign of Pisces and planet Neptune, which is Pisces is actually the opposite sign of Virgo. So throughout their lives, I feel that they kind of adopt a Piscean nature into their Virgo nature as well. But they kind of maybe apply both of them together. So you have this person who has planned his own upside down hanging to just kind of surrender and look at things from a different perspective. They know that, you know, by being in this position, nothing's gonna happen because they chose to be there themselves. You know, they have the control over hanging there. I don't really know a lot of people who have their suns in Virgo, and I'm gonna just be very blunt about this, that whenever I meet someone who has their sun in sign of Virgo, it feels kind of like there's been karma. I don't know if you believe in karma, you know, past lives, things like that, but it almost feels like something bad is gonna happen. Usually nothing happens. Well, sometimes something's happened, but when I first approach a sign of Virgo person, there's this kind of nervousness that I feel around them. Probably maybe because I have a Gemini ascendant, so I'm just nervous, and then they have a Virgo sun, so they're kind of nervous. But it's kind of like Yeah, they're kind of have this nervous energy, and I feel that they're very gentle by nature, and I feel that when I say something, you know, I'm gonna hurt them, or I could say something that makes them feel bad, so I kind of have to treat them with kid gloves almost. That's what I feel. They do have a side to them that can be very, very blunt. They can have this kind of sarcastic humor. That's kind of just the opposite of what you would expect them when you first meet this gentle sign of Virgo person, and then suddenly they say this like super blunt and sarcastic joke. They're highly, highly helpful, like I mentioned before. They really are. But you really I feel that I really have to be careful when I'm with a Sun in Virgo person. And I really have to feel that if I'm asking them for help, that they're not giving too much of themselves away. So I think that it really takes a sensitive person to kind of interact with a Sun in Virgo person, because it's almost like they're standing on this thin line, almost crossing over to the point of sacrifice, and you don't want them to have to sacrifice anything. You know, you want them to help you practically and give practical advice, but not sacrifice themselves. Because in general, Suns in Virgos are very smart usually, and they usually can appreciate a person they usually appreciate people who work hard, people who are loyal. And yeah, and the colleague that I mentioned before who had a Sun in Virgo who wasn't really hygienic, he was very he would be so smart that he would recognize people's potentials and people's abilities. And that is one of the things that I noticed with a Sun in Virgo person, is that when they see someone who is talented or gifted, they would recognize this. So that's my take on the Sun in the sign of Virgo. If you have a Sun in Virgo, or you know someone who has a Sun in Virgo, please leave a comment below. I would love to have a little discussion about it. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel and you like this kind of a content, then please feel free to hit the subscribe button to see more content. That's all for today. Bye!